empathy circle. Any short report, I will call your name, and the little squares don't move around too much. I'm going to start with you, Jonathan. Would you please?
Thank you very much. I'm grateful for being here. The empathy circle process has helped me with my communications with all the people I'm dealing with. And somehow along the way, I missed the process for hooking up with a buddy. So later in the conversation or somewhere, you might explain that procedure. Thank you.
Certainly. Thank you, Jonathan. And Dorothy, would you give us your 30 seconds, please?
I'm very happy to be here. I had a buddy call, and it was great. And I wish I could just remember her name. I'm sorry. She's from Texas. And then I had another buddy call yesterday. It was great. So I'm very happy to be here. This is my second round of training. So I'm looking forward to deepening my practice. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Dorothy. And Colin, would you please check in?
Hi, Celine. Hello from Berlin. I am doing well. I had a buddy call with Graham during the week. I was really happy with how it went. I have also been practicing empathic listening with a friend this week. And I'm spreading the word about the empathy circle movement, just getting the word out there.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Colin. And Oren, would you please check in?
Hi, thank you, Celine. Thank you, everybody. Yeah, really grateful to be here. Yeah, I did my typical and skim read Edwin's wonderful email, so I didn't really work out how to connect with the buddy that I was assigned to. So I apologize, whoever that was, but I did manage to have a great call with Dorothy yesterday, and that was really useful. So yeah, and yeah, really happy to be here. And yeah.
Thank you. Well, we will explain about the empathy buddies again today at some point. And let's see, Leo, would you please check in?
I am from Wisconsin. Weather's getting cooler. The rhythm of education calendar is approaching a new term. I missed the buddy instructions also, so I'll try to catch up on that this week.
Okay, great. Thank you, Leo. And Renato, would you please check in?
Yes, hello from Zagreb, Croatia. And I got a buddy call, but I missed it because I was busy today. But somehow I will just make it happen. I will do it one day if someone calls me. And also I had a wonderful time empathic circle with Larry and with also Matthew from Nigeria. And I'm really glad that I did that. We had a really, really nice conversation.
Great. Thank you, Renato. Mervyn, would you please check in briefly?
Yeah, I had two buddy calls. Both were very interesting conversations. I learned a lot from them, and also had I did a proper empathy circle with two MVC friends, and it went really well. So I'm really pleased about that.
Great. Thank you. And your 30 seconds, please, Crystal. Check in.
Yes, good morning, everyone. So I did have a buddy call with Valerie. It went wonderfully. We thought we couldn't talk for 2 hours, but we did. And I wanted to also thank Edwin for the beautiful email we received this morning. I love Jane Fonda's quote that he shared with each of us.
Thank you. Graham, would you check in, please?
Yeah, my pleasure, Celine. I'm here in Glasgow in Scotland and enjoying every minute of my stay here. I had a buddy call with Colin. It was actually my second conversation with Colin, and both have been very stimulating. And I met a previous buddy from Facilitator training called Ben Kramer in person in Edinburgh, very nearby. And that was equally stimulating. And so I look forward to today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Graham. And John, would you please check in?
Hi, Celine. Sure. I had a buddy call with Diane, and we spoke for longer than I thought. It was wonderful. She taught me some new things about human interaction and human connection. I'm very grateful.
Lovely. Thank you. And Diane, would you please check in?
Hi, good afternoon from Brooklyn, New York. I also enjoyed my call with John. It's a lot of fun to talk. And in terms of practicing empathy, I think it's every conversation is an opportunity to practice empathy. So thanks.
Thank you, Diane. Beata, would you please check in?
Hi everyone, I'm doing well, and yes, I had my buddy call this week with Mervyn from London, which was really pleasant experience.
Great, thank you, Beata. Sally Rodman, would you please check in?
Sure. Yeah, I was having a little bit with also I guess he didn't get the email. Anyway, I had a buddy call with Larry, and then I found out Osu hadn't done a buddy call, so I did one with him yesterday, and I guess right now I was trying to get him the link to Zoom. Okay, so that's it.
Thank you, Sally. So some people have moved around. How about Kathleen?
Hey everyone, hi. Thank you, Celine. I missed the opportunity for a buddy call this week. I have a friend who was in the last cohort. We do community organizing work together, so I did connect with her and we talked about the process, my friend Marisa. And that was really enriching and helpful for how we might use this together moving forward in our community. And I'm also a teacher and we went back to school this week, and it was a lot of helpful practice and empathetic listening using some of the techniques just from last week. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you. Wendy, would you please check in, give us your 30 seconds.
Thank you. I thoroughly enjoyed facilitating my first empathy circle with some friends. I learned a lot. I got 5 or 6 points that I really will take on board. So that was a really beneficial time. Thank you.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you. Let's see. I gotta look at the second screen. DJ, are you here? Okay, Tanya, are you here? Yeah, I see you. Can you unmute? Let us see you.
I'm sorry, my camera isn't working. So if it's okay without camera. Thank you, Celine. I actually missed, I didn't know we had to do a body empathy call. So I missed that. I regret that. However, I've been having empathy buddy calls for the past 2 years with the same empathy buddy. And I find that to be really, every time we meet is amazing.
Ah, wonderful. Thank you, Tanya. Rahul, would you please check in with your half a minute of your last week? Can you unmute? Sure, great.
Yeah, hi. My name is Rahul, and I did my buddy call with Sayantan and yeah, it was really rewarding. I think we listened to each other pretty well and enjoyed the experience. It was very wholesome. Yeah, looking forward to today.
Thank you. Thank you, Rahul. And Shayantam, would you please check in?
I did a buddy call with Rahul last week, and I couldn't schedule a buddy call with Wendy. It was I had a very difficult week with a couple of health emergencies in the extended family, and somebody died. So the week just went by very quickly. But yeah, I look forward to catching up on any buddy calls I might have missed this week. So if like Wendy and we can get together, and also any other buddy calls, so look forward to that.
Thank you, Shayantam. Janine, would you please check in? So I'm confusing participants and trainers and so on right now, but we're carry forward anyway. We have time.
Okay. Hey, everybody. I'm sorry, I'm not sure if my video is on or not, but I had a great call with Dorothy. We were so excited, and we were trying to do our empathy, session, but we were so excited at the fact that she's getting ready to move to Texas and has some family here, that we, sometimes we're just going back and forth with excitement, talking about how great it is to have buddies on the call. So we had a great 30-minute chat. I had a meeting to run out to very shortly afterwards, but it was fantastic with Dorothy. She's awesome. So I'm looking forward to talking with her more, and then seeing her when she gets here.
Wonderful. I think she's here. She's waving.
Yeah, there she is.
Thanks, Janine.
Mm-hmm.
Osu, would you please check in? Give us your half a minute.
Okay. I'm here.
Were you able
Sorry.
to practice?
Yes, I practiced with Sally. We had a body call group session with Sally yesterday.
Yes. Wonderful. Okay.
And it was a good session. It was a good session. Sally shared a lot about what she's doing in empathy in school. And she also mentioned that she is having like a big picture for empathy, that she wants to see where we will be empathy ambassadors, not just empathy facilitators. And empathy will be a global phenomenon. And for me, that was a wonderful experience yesterday. And I also had time with Larry. We also had a session with Larry yesterday, and it was a great session. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Osu. I love that idea. Empathy ambassadors, we're very much needed. So did I miss any participants?
DJ is available.
DJ is here now?
Yeah, I've been here the whole time. Yeah.
Oh, for some reason, there you are. I got you. Okay. DJ, please.
I'm here. Yeah, I'm so glad to be here.
Okay.
Looking forward to it.
Okay, if you didn't get a chance to do an empathy buddy call, you will get an email following the training, and it will suggest who your empathy buddy is for the week. And you make contact and find a time to talk, and that's all that it is. So Edwin, we have a little time. Do you want me to go to trainees?
Yeah, you can get a few trainees in. We have about 5 minutes.
Great, okay. I will start with Tiffany. Tiffany, do you want to check in, please?
Thank you so much, Celine. Hello, everyone, and welcome to you. Good morning and good afternoon to some and others. I did not get to meet with my buddy. I was just speaking with her, chatting on her on the side, Vieta, and we'll be getting together soon. But it's good to see people here again. Thank you.
Thank you, Tiffany. Mike, would you?
Yes, I was not able to connect with my buddy either, but I did have a nice long conversation with Larry last night. So that was, Larry was my buddy for the week, I guess.
Wonderful. Great. Thank you. Valerie, would you please tell us about your buddy call? Yeah, if you had a buddy call.
Yeah, hi. So I actually had a buddy call with Crystal, and it went really well. We had so much to talk about and could have run over the 2 hours very easily. And I learned a lot, and yeah, just really appreciated the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. It's so wonderful to hear about these buddy calls and how enriching they are. I love that. Who else is a trainee that haven't called on? You want to let me know?
Trainee.
Anna, raise your hand.
Yes, please.
Yeah, I did a buddy call this week with Mervyn, and we did a half hour, and it was precious and I think meaningful. And we did an empathy circle with truth storytelling with the Peace Alliance. And that was a little bit challenging, but there it was. Dwayne was there and DJ, and yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jana. Okay. If there isn't anybody else. Interesting, dealing with the two screens. We can move forward. And I will then pass it to Larry and Mike to tell us about questions that have come up.
All right. We're going to try to address the questions that have been sent in. The first one was, when one is tired, how to maintain focus. My memory is not always reliable, so keeping track of what everyone shared feels a bit daunting. And our answer to that was, you might want to take a little standing break or do some deep, slow breathing. Try grounding techniques. And there's one I'm going to post in the chat that's too long to read, but it's called coming to your senses. And I literally mean your visual, hearing, smelling senses to bring yourself into the now when you get fatigued. And we discussed that, empathic listening can do that when you first start doing it. And I'm going to pass on now to Mike for the second question.
Okay, number two is it best for the active listener to repeat back everything they hear or to summarize? Larry and I decided that the answer to that was you should reflect back the essence of what the speaker is saying, and then ask the speaker if they feel heard. So basically, it's up to the speaker to feel to let you know whether they feel heard, and then that may involve summarizing, or it may involve whatever it is that makes the speaker happy. Okay.
Exactly. And the third question is, any tips on what the silent listeners can do to stay focused? For example, I imagine being the active listener to help me listen more fully. And our response was, exactly, that's perfect. There's really no difference in the listening part. If you're the active listener or the silent listener, the listening empathically is the same. So back to you, Mike, for question number 4.
Okay, the question number 4, if a person speaks less than the time allowed, they should be able to pass the baton to the next person or sit in silence. Their choice, but it's always the speaker's choice whether they want to, what they want to do. If they want to pass it on to the next speaker, or if they want to sit in silence, it shouldn't be the choice of the facilitator or anybody else.
All right. Question number 5. how best to integrate the active listener role into everyday conversations. And our response is, I'm hearing you ask the best way to casually reflect back what someone just said to you. Did I understand you correctly? So our response to that is a reflection. On to question number 6. Oh, wow, we got 5 done so quickly.
I know.
For 6. They're kind of
Okay, so 6A, how to successfully facilitate and organize breaking a large group of individuals into groups of 5 in an auditorium to have them practice empathetic listening after an instructional training session. Basically, you'd use the same method of empathy circles that we do online. It's just that it would be in an auditorium. And so the suggestion is to attend the rest of this training cohort. And also there's a great session on Thursdays with Lou on empathy circle with the emphasis on facilitators and how to be how to train facilitators. So, and 6B is how, if possible, to use them effectively as, to use empathy circles as a tool for conflict resolution in a charged circumstance. And again, the answer is to complete this training cohort, attend Lou's support group on Thursdays. And I know that Edwin is working and has worked in the past on this conflict resolution, using empathy circles for conflict resolution. It's a really important question, and something that I don't feel qualified to answer, but that I think Edwin and Lou's group on Thursday would be the best way to go, and including completion of this training.
So could Edwin say a moment about that? That would be awesome.
Just about the support group is actually on Saturdays with Lou. It's on Fridays, every second Friday, and he sends an announcement about it to the email list.
And about using the empathy circles for
conflict. So the empathy circle can hold the basic conflict, but we also have something called a restorative empathy circle, which adds more layers to it. And we want to create a whole training module on that. So that's something farther down the line. Yeah.
Thank you. All right, so I think we're passing on to Tiffany now.
Linda has her hand up.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Go, Linda.
You're muted, Linda.
Just to go back to what the question Mike had about dividing up in an auditorium, if you want 5 people in a group, my suggestion is to have everyone count off 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then have all the 1s go to one group, all the 5s, and that way it's a random selection, and then go to the farthest corner of the auditorium so the speaker and the listener, they're not interrupted, and just give everybody the same instructions in terms of we will 3 minutes speak, whatever, and we will return here in an hour and a half or whatever. So I'll give you 5 minutes notice or something like that. And that's my suggestion. As far as conflict, because I am a mediator, and I was actually doing a mediation this week and intentionally using the empathic listening. Sometimes when you repeat back to a person what they said, even though they, just hearing the words come back sometimes can have them rethink their position.
Mm.
Not always, but sometimes. That's my 2 cents.
Thank you, Linda. And Tiffany, you're up. Are there any other questions? I don't see them.
My hand is up, Dwayne.
Oh, Dwayne, go ahead, please.
Yeah. Hi. excuse me, sometime later, I would like for someone to provide some clear instructions about buddy calls. You know, about reaching out, the length of the calls and everything. If that would be helpful somewhere before we end this session.
How about doing it right now?
Can we do that at the end, in the very end? There's I'll give a little explanation of it at the end. We should get into the breakout rooms first.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, so that would be me. I should be the last person to speak before we go into our breakout rooms. So I'm just going to brief you on what we're doing this week in our breakout rooms, because every week with the Empathy Circle, we try to do something slightly different. We will go into our breakout rooms to give you each time to practice facilitating a mini empathy circle, mini comprising of a minimum of 4 people. The context is that you are facilitating an empathy circle with people who are not familiar with the practice. So if you were here last week, you went into a breakout room, someone told you the how-tos of an empathy circle, and you participated. You either listened or you spoke. Today, we're asking you to take 30 minutes while we're in the breakout rooms to facilitate or host. Now, we don't want you to feel overwhelmed about that. So here's how we're going to break it down. One key thing about being a facilitator is that you're overseeing. First, you're going to introduce the how-tos of the mini empathy circle. And if you've forgotten, your trainer or trainee is there to support you all the way. You're going to set the topic, and our topics are, what are your thoughts and concerns about being an empathy circle facilitator, or whatever's alive for you? And then each person in the circle will get 3 minutes to speak. And then we'll take turns. The facilitator, if you volunteered yourself, you're going to be the first listener and choose someone to be the speaker. And then at the end, or even before that 30 minutes is up, each participant is going to give feedback on how you facilitated. And again, we want you to be totally comfortable with this. This is the second week for many of you, and you may not necessarily feel all the way comfortable, but again, we're here to support. We don't expect you to get it perfectly right. The trainees are just here to support. You do the best that you can, and then we will repeat that. So 30 minutes may seem like a long time, but by the time you introduce it, which will probably take about 5 minutes, and give each person the chance to speak or actively listen, and then debrief at the end before the 30 minutes is up, it'll go by pretty quickly. And then afterwards, the next volunteer is going to volunteer to facilitate. And then the final volunteer will volunteer to facilitate. And that should equal an hour and a half, and then we'll come back into this main room. Does anyone have any questions?
Okay, I created the breakout rooms, and some rooms only have 2 participants, so you actually have half the time to facilitate. Some people are dropping in and out, so hopefully we'll be able to. If you drop out, you come back in, you'll come back in through the weight room, and I'll be in that weight room with one group, and then I'll try to move you to your room. So just let you know about that. And I think we're ready to go into the breakout rooms. We'll go for an hour and a half, and we'll give you about a 10-minute heads up before we come back to the full room again for our debrief. Okay, anything else, Bill?
No, I'm ready to empathize.
Okay, let's empathize. Okay, let's get into those rooms. I think we got all the rooms set. There's people dropping in and out, so it's that's a large group. We gotta, yeah, I think we'll hope for the best.
The internet is challenging over here.
challenging. Yeah, it'll be with some of the internet connections, people will be having challenges. We'll just do our best. So here we go into our breakout rooms. See you there. And I'll be here with you, Jenna, and there's only 2 participants. So I have to divide the time in half. Osu should be moving to room 2. So there he goes.
I have a question.
Yep.
We're doing 2 debriefs. We're doing one after the how-to and then again at the end.
Correct. So do your how-to and get a bit of feedback and then facilitate your circle.
So I'll just introduce what we're doing, or is it clear to everyone? Participant 1 facilitates a mini empathy circle. So we're going to divide the time equally between Leo and you, Dorothy. And first you give the how-to. We have this handout you can follow. Yeah, you got it? Yes, you both have it? Yeah, great. And then you set the topic. What are your thoughts and concerns about being an empathy circle facilitator or whatever is alive for you? And we set the time, 3 minutes. And you introduce yourself as the first listener. And then we'll get feedback on the how-to presentation, the first how-to presentation, and then you'll hold the short empathy circle with 3 minutes each, and we'll do the time for you, Edwin and I, and you'll get feedback on the empathy circle. Wendy popped in. We can't hear you.
Sorry, my internet disconnected. So anyway, I'm back. So I don't know if you need
to. Edwin will send you back, I guess, to where you've gone.
Thank you.
And I guess we'll be doing this with pop-ins over and over.
We're in the weight room here, and so people may be popping through. That's like a little extra challenge.
Yeah. So Wendy just popped out. And then we'll get feedback on the empathy circle, and then participant 2 will rinse, repeat, and then we'll do a group debrief, time allowing for like 5-10 minutes to share how this was for all of us. And who would like to volunteer to be first participant? Any questions?
Well, I can go first if you like.
Sure, okay, doesn't really matter, you know, then it's your turn after that, you know. Okay, so go ahead, Dorothy, you can tell us. So also I'm reminding you that we've never done an empathy circle. Edward and I have never done empathy circles, and Leo is totally new to the practice, and so you can go ahead and share how that is. And Edwin, you're keeping time?
You are, as a room facilitator.
I am, okay, great.
I'm just back up.
Okay.
So hi, everybody. So happy to see everybody here. So today we're going to be practicing empathy circle, which is a way, a practice where we develop and work on listening, listening and speaking actually too. So it's not a regular conversation that we're going to have like people do in groups. It's not a self-help group. It's just really a group process that helps us to practice listening and speaking. So it's a very simple practice. There's 2 main characters. There's the speaker and the listener. And if there are other people in the group, there's silent listeners. So they're more passive and they're just observing what's going on. So the other 2 are more active. So we're going to take some time. They're going to be about 3 minutes for each person to play the speaker and listener. And we're going to all have a chance to play those roles, and the passive and the observer, the silent listener as well. If we have, and we see we do have more than 2 people here. So yes, we'll have 2 silent listeners as well. So that's it for that part. I'm not sure if there's any questions, and I can just go into how it's going to work. Are there any questions? Okay. So the way it's going to work is, so once I'm going to be, the listener. I'm going to start by listening. We're going to take 3 minutes. I'm going to be keeping time. So I'll choose somebody who's going to. Did you put your hand up?
Yeah,
Dana?
before you start, we'll just give you some feedback on the
Oh, yes. Okay, sure.
So yeah, you explained the 4 roles, and what I also like to say is also that we listen without judgment and without, I like to say that. And I don't know, you chose passive, but I don't like to think of the silent listener as passive. I like to think of the silent listener as really present and also has an important role. Yeah. So, that's just, what you described is not incorrect, and it's fine too. So it's just a personal preference. Edwin, you have any feedback?
I would ask Dorothy first, like, how was it presenting?
Oh, I'm
just
sorry.
to
Okay.
hear from the.
Oh, oops. Okay.
Yeah. So I haven't done, I've done empathy circles because I've done the training before. So I've done empathy circles, which I've adopted a lot with children too. So I think I've really simplified my explanation because with children, I don't have to talk about judgment necessarily. So thank you for saying that. So I think I just, so it was a bit strange coming back to adults and talking to adults today. So thank you that, so it was a bit uncomfortable at the onset. So that's it. Thank you for asking, Edwin.
Great. Yeah, so feedback. Yeah, I don't usually say judgment, say it with, I just say reflect back what you hear. Don't, in the instructions, it says, don't add your own. It actually does say, I think, judgment, ideas, and so forth. Just, yeah, that's actually true. So it's just, there's a whole bunch of things. Just reflect back. Yeah. So, yeah, I don't really have anything to add to it. Seemed good to me. Yeah. I'm also a little distracted because I'm keeping eyes on the whole rooms and everything. So half my attention is over there too. So yeah, that's me.
Leo, you have feedback? I should have asked you two first before I said.
Yeah, I think introducing the empathy circle is its own art, and that too will take practice. So Dorothy, you did good.
Yes.
Oh, that's a judgment.
No judgment. Yeah, sorry. Okay, now we'll do the time. So I'm setting a 3-minute timer. I have this little chime, and
okay, but am I supposed to keep the time?
Yeah, Dorothy keeps the time. You're gonna keep the half. She has we have about 40 minutes or so for her. So, or a little bit less.
2 people. You want to do longer turns, Edwin? 4 minutes.
We could, yeah. That's
that might be better.
Yeah, since you have more time.
Okay, we're good.
So you introduce the topic. You can reintroduce the topic. You can reintroduce the topic since I.
Okay. So today we're going to be talking. So what we're going to be talking about today is just your thoughts and concerns about being an empathy circle facilitator, or it could be whatever's alive in you today, for you today. And so the way it's going to work is that I'm going to start by being the listener, and I'll pick somebody who's going to speak to me first, and I will do that. And then I'm going to keep time. And we have 4 minutes. And then I'm going to, when the 4 minutes start, I'm going to pick up can you see my phone? I'm going to wave it up. And then you can just wrap it up. It doesn't mean that you have to stop. You could just take the time to wrap up what you want to say, what you were saying. And I will reflect back. And then once it's done, and then I will be the speaker. And I will need a listener. So I can pick who. Is that the right way to go? Right. And I don't think, who's going to listen to me? And then you'll do the same thing. You'll have 4 minutes. I will speak. And then when it's done, and then the listener will have their turn. So the listener then will become the speaker. And then, so is that okay? Is that clear? There was something I didn't mention earlier that I think I should mention in my explanation. I've done that too before. Is that, so it's really important when we're speaking to be mindful of how we're speaking. So when I'm going to be speaking, it'll be just maybe 1 or 2 ideas at a time, because just to give the chance for the listener to be able to reflect back what it is that the speaker was saying. Okay, good. So I'm going to be the speaker, and I can actually ask who would like to be the first person to speak, or do I pick?
You can just open. I usually let people choose. Just yeah.
Yeah. So who would like to be the speaker first? Leo?
Okay.
I knew you were going to do it.
Just some feedback before I proceed.
Yeah.
I was confused if you were identifying as the first speaker or as the first listener. I heard, so I wasn't sure which position you were assuming for yourself, but
Yeah.
that could have been my ears too.
No, I think I went back and forth. So I'm the listener. I'll be
You're
listening.
the listener.
And I also didn't explain my role as facilitator, which is another important piece that I needed to explain, is my role as a facilitator, and that my role is that to keep time and to, to just kind of hold the space for people in the empathy circle.
Right.
It's all coming back to me.
Yeah. Well, it does take practice.
It's like slowly coming back to me. All right. So is that okay, Leo? Did I answer your question?
Yes, you did. Thank you.
Okay.
Dorothy.
So Leo,
I'll be the speaker now.
that's right. So I'm listening.
Well, I'm nervous, and that's one of my feelings about facilitating. Also, I've been a teacher, and I'm comfortable with people, but there's a real art to promoting this technique of empathy circle that I want to learn more about.
So what I'm hearing you say is that you're not nervous about facilitating. You're a teacher. You have experience in facilitating, and what you enjoy about this, or what you are interested in, is how curious actually about this process of empathy, of listening and speaking.
Thank you, Dorothy. I'm looking forward to maybe being in a church setting and teaching the empathy circle method to a group of people who are interested in that. And so I have to think about how will I proceed? How will I introduce the concept? And I believe practice is the name of the game.
So you're curious, wondering how you're thinking about applying this empathy circle process in a church setting. And you have to be very mindful about how you're going to introduce it. And you realize that the name of the game is practice.
So that the best way of teaching empathy circle is to practice it. The best way to learn it is to practice it.
So the best way to learn is to teach is to practice. The best way to learn is to practice.
In the back of my mind too is the interface of empathy circles with education. And education is often teacher talking to students. You know, it's a one-way communication. And so in the back of my mind is how do we bring the qualities of empathy circles to the classroom, to a learning situation?
So another question you have is is how do we incorporate or import empathy circle into the classroom where it's always been, you know, the teacher is speaking to the students and it's a one-way interaction.
And also there's a certain what should I say, a certain undirected, we don't know what's going to emerge in a circle. People can say whatever they want, whatever's on their mind or heart. So it requires a certain quality of being open to what emerges in the group.
So the other thing that you're observing is how this process means that you have to have some level of openness because anything can happen, anything can be said.
That's in contrast to a classroom that has a curriculum, a very specific agenda, learning objective. You know, there's a lot of stuff on the table before conversation even begins.
And it's very different from the classroom setting where, you know, it's all defined objectives and curriculum. So that it's a very different reality. Do you feel fully heard, Leo?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Dorothy.
Okay, so thank you, Leo. So now it's your turn to speak, to listen. Let's see.
It's actually you to
speak.
speak.
I speak.
Mhm.
And sorry. And then thank you, Edwin. I always got this confused. So I will speak, and I'd like a listener.
You choose the listener. You can choose.
Oh, I choose the
who you
listener?
want. Yeah, and I still
Okay.
get confused. Yeah.
Okay, so Jana, did I pronounce Jana? Is that
Jana. Mhm.
Jana, could you be my listener?
Sure.
Okay. So since the training I did last, I've been experimenting, applying empathy circles with children in schools in the Hellenic community here in Montreal. And really had to simplify the process so that it becomes more playful for the children.
So you've actually been applying empathy circles and sharing empathy circles with children in Montreal, in the Hellenic, in the Greek community.
And it's interesting the reaction of the teachers who did participate they just wanted to observe the process. And they actually observed the same thing that Leo brought up in terms of communicating with the children.
And you had to simplify the process to share it with children, and you have also had teachers come and observe, and their reflections have been similar to what Leo brought up.
And now that I'm involved within the Hellenic community as a board member of a council, I am looking at how I can apply empathy circles in the churches as well.
So now you're a board member of in the Hellenic community, and you're actually thinking of how to expand empathy circles to the churches.
In a culture that historically there's, we call it trauma that the people are carrying in our community, where there's a lot of conflict it's not very easy, and I'm not sure how I can be useful that way in bringing this process in.
So you're finding it challenging because this community, this Hellenic community, has had a lot of trauma, and there's a lot of conflict, and you're not sure how they'll actually accept and how to introduce this practice and how you can be possibly useful.
As part of it is my own feelings within the community, and how it resonates when the conflict arises, how it actually triggers me, and how I have to work a lot on myself, so I can't engage in the process. I'm in the process of actually just living my own my own burdens, let's say. I come from being part of the community as well.
So you're also a part of the community, and these are also your personal challenges, and you find that when bringing empathy to others, you're also feeling triggered, and you're like having to struggle with how to deal with your own responses and how to overcome them.
So this is why I came back and wanting to deepen my practice. And I realized that it's true. I breathe a lot more. I'm breathing a lot deeper, more and more.
That's why you came back to empathy circles, for more training and for more practice, and you find that you're actually breathing deeper and more and deeper and feeling more relieved. And you feel heard?
Thank you, Jen. I feel fully heard.
Thank you, Dorothy. So I get to choose a listener. So I'm going to choose Leo, if that's all right. Leo, would you like to listen to me?
Thank you. Yes.
And yeah, concerns and thoughts about being an empathy circle facilitator. Well, I guess one concern is making mistakes, and as you can see, we make mistakes, and it's okay. The people are very nice, and nobody bites.
So one part of our training is making mistakes, and this seems to be a friendly enough setting where it's okay.
Yeah, like last week I led an empathy circle, and I mixed up the speaker facilitator. Usually I catch it before I actually mess it up, but I messed it up, and then we fixed it after like the second turn.
So you recall a mistake you made in the procedure last week?
Yeah.
It got fixed.
Yeah, it got fixed. Yeah, and I also pointed out that that's a common mistake. That's very easy to make.
So our mistakes are not original. They've been done before.
Yeah. And thoughts and concerns. Wow. I'm looking into how to share this and how to connect all these communities that I'm connected with, and how to bring the empathy circles to all of them.
So you belong to a lot of communities, and one of your concerns is how do you bring the gifts of the empathy circle to various communities that you already belong to?
So here, there's already wonderful start in this group. We have a facilitator, a senior facilitator from 16 Guidelines, Building Inner Strength, from the Foundation for Developing Compassion and Wisdom, is participating in this training. That's really exciting. You don't have to remember the whole.
We have a professional with us, someone who's written a book on guidelines, and I didn't know that. So thank you for that.
She didn't read the book. She's a senior facilitator. She facilitates the training in 16 Guidelines. It's a beautiful training program.
Great.
Go ahead. You can.
So you mentioned that in our group today, there's a facilitator trainer, and
Yeah,
Okay,
she's connected to a beautiful organization and a wonderful practice. And bringing the empathy circles combined with that practice is really can be powerful.
So this is an example of bringing the empathy circle into a practice of facilitation.
Yeah. And then another person is connected to the Peace Alliance. We've been working on the idea of truth and reconciliation, or truth and healing, with kind of an anti-racist goal or mission or hope or aspiration. And now we have empathy circles starting there.
So the Peace Alliance is another community you're a part of, and you're beginning to see the empathy circle practice brought into that organization as well.
Yeah, well, Kathy's bringing it into the whole organization, but this is like a subset that's focused on anti-racism, on truth and reconciliation, or truth and transformation.
So a subset of the Peace Alliance is focusing on racial justice, and Kathy is the person leading that.
She's
So-
not, she's leading a different empathy circle, and we're doing another empathy circle. So there are two in the Peace Alliance. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you feel fully heard, Jana?
It's all right. Thank you. Thank you very much. And now it's Leo's.
Mhm.
And I'll ask Dorothy to be my listener.
Sure,
Thank you, Dorothy.
I'm listening.
And timekeeper is
Me.
you. All right.
Yeah, did we finish a round? We did.
Uh,
I have a half an hour, right?
yeah, we kind of finished a round. Do we want to start another round?
Yeah, but I don't know. I'm not, now we're gonna ask Jenna.
You can go another 15 minutes, because we have until the top of the hour, right? Until 2. So you can go another 15 minutes, and then Leo will have 45 minutes, because there's just 2 of you doing it. So you get to practice a little longer, which is a good thing.
Okay, so we're still practicing under Dorothy's round.
Yes, sir. So
Okay.
we're gonna start now. Leo, I'm listening.
Okay, so I'm learning one of our topics that emerged in our conversation today is the application of empathy circles. And
I'm going to pause you, because you need to, Dorothy, you want to tell him what he needs to do?
He's just saying what he, no.
He needs to
please.
pick a listener.
He
He
picked
did, he picked
Dorothy.
me.
Uh-huh.
Oh, he picked Dorothy. Oh, then I missed it. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I'm like, what did I miss?
we're practicing. So
Okay.
we're one of our concerns in facilitating is the application of empathy circles in various venues.
So what you're picking up from our conversation today, our empathy circle, is how do we apply empathy circles in different spheres or environments or contexts?
Dorothy, you cited some of your experience of working with children as a place where empathy circle can take root.
Yes, and I cited an example of where I applied it with children.
And Jana cited several communities she's involved with, and Peace Alliance being one of them, and including racial justice concerns. So we see these are applications of the empathy circle in different contexts.
And Jenna also cited a few places where empathy circles are used and experienced. So last second part.
In developing a culture of empathy that Edwin is so passionate about, it's good for me to remember to start with existing groups and bring empathy. Yes, and bring empathy circle practice to the existing group.
So what you're observing is from this discussion is that we bring the empathy circle process to the existing groups, and this actually helps build a culture of empathy that Edwin is so passionate about.
So the pitch, I guess my pitch would be to help an existing group with a new skill.
So I guess you, I'm sorry, Leo, did you finish?
I think so.
So what you are interested in or thinking about is how do you apply this to a group that already exists?
So I want to start with a respect for the group's mission and their vision and their self-understanding, and simply offer a tool that they might want to use in their ordinary deliberations.
So you would start with respecting the group's mission and vision and way of functioning, and just introduce or suggest the empathy circle as a tool that can help them.
I'm so impressed by Edwin's example of service and offering this tool to the world.
And you're really inspired by Edwin's passion to want to spread this to the world.
And I don't think it's meant to be spread in a, I don't feel it egoistic motivation. He wants to spread it for the sake of the world, not for the sake of his movement. And so in that regard, it's real service attitude.
And so what's inspiring is that it's a real, it's from a service perspective and not from an ego perspective.
Yeah, I get nervous thinking about joining a movement, but I think there can be a different attitude about the role of facilitating.
So because you just get really nervous when it's a movement. So you're very cautious about how when you involve yourself in particular movements.
Thank you, Dorothy. I feel heard.
You feel fully heard. Okay, so now it's my turn. Edwin, would you like to
listening? Yep.
Okay. So I really like what Leo just said, because it's helping me think about how I can apply it within my community.
And so you're appreciating what Leo has been saying about empathy circles, because it's making you think how you can apply it in different communities you're part of.
So because I was caught up with the role that I thought I had to play because of a title that I have, I'm inside, and I wasn't sure how to apply the empathy circle being on the inside.
So
your role that I play,
Yeah, there's a certain role that you play in these organizations, and you're sort of in the organizations, and sounds like you're kind of wondering how to bring in it almost like that sense of role was a block in some way.
Yeah, so I have a little bit of work to do in deciding whether I should continue playing that role and just step out, but then be within in another way, and really just actually having like a t-shirt like you do, Edwin, that says empathy. and so that everybody will see me, will go, oh, here we go again with the empathy.
Yeah, so you're thinking about how to bring it into your organization. Maybe you need to step out, just have a shirt on that says empathy, and people say, oh, there she is again with her empathy shirt, and just kind of bring it into people's awareness.
Yeah, because there's something about what Leo said that really struck me, is about respecting the culture, the structure, the vision. And even if I have a hard time with it, it's very rigid, and it's also It's not based on trust. There's a lot of mistrust. It is what it is.
Yeah, so you're talking about that culture, that the one it has mistrust. Sounds like you're sort of, how do you bring the empathy circle into that community with the mistrust and sort of accepting it for the way it is?
Yeah. So that means, you know, helping me to just figure out, if I take a step back, then I will be able to step in and just be the, I just love that idea of an empathy ambassador.
So instead of kind of connecting everyone from your role, that you kind of step back and say, I'm just an empathy ambassador trying to promote this value of empathy.
And I'm sorry, I just realized that I didn't put the timer on. So I'm going to give myself 1 more minute, okay?
Okay, you forgot to turn the timer on, feeling some regret, so giving yourself 1 minute.
I think that's all I really wanted to say, actually.
Okay. Feel fully heard, and I'll speak to Leo.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it's like how to spread the practice in these different contexts is a, you know, a question. What can we do to sort of spread it more quickly? Yeah.
So abiding question is how to spread the practice.
Yeah, I'm so curious about Dorothy doing it with children, what the experience is there. You know, how do you simplify it? How do you make it fun? You know, kids they can get kind of impatient, and how do you, you know, do it in a way that is engaging with children?
So you'd like to hear more from Dorothy about how she applies empathy circle practice with children.
I've done it with my nephews and nieces, you know, and they're like 5, 6, 7 years old when they're already at that age, and they're already able to do it. And they actually sort of, at least, yeah, my niece really, she's 5 years old. She really appreciated it because, you know, she's younger and she can talk to her brothers and not just get dominated and, you know, beat up about issues. It's like, oh, I really like this. I get to, you know, talk with them to do problem solving and talk about issues. So I think it can start really early.
So you've had experience teaching this practice to your nephews and nieces, some very young, and they appreciate it because they get equal airtime with their siblings, and they get a chance to express themselves and know that they'll have a turn to be heard and to be understood.
So yeah, there is sort of, like, even in my family, you know, I'm Mr. Empathy, and my extended family, like trying to bring empathy into it. It's like, there's this wall, you know, it's a different way of talking. So you can just feel this wall to something new, and how to sort of bridge that wall to make people feel comfortable. And it wasn't until in my family a knockdown, drag out conflict started between my mother and sister-in-law that I mediated, and it turned into a family empathy circle sort of spontaneously. And it ended very positively, that everybody kind of said, oh, this is not bad. We're good for doing more of this.
There's a wall between the formality of empathy practice and our ordinary habits of conversation. And it really was a breakthrough in your family when they had a family crisis, and you had, by necessity, to practice empathy in a family circle. And that broke through that wall. People discovered this new way of connecting and interconnecting with each other.
Yeah, and so that was kind of one breakthrough. But then we did some mediations, and because of COVID, I haven't been sort of in person with them, and things have sort of gone back to the norm, right? It's like, it's not only how do you break through, but how do you sort of implement the mindset on an ongoing way. So something, it needs to be somehow institutionalized or made a regular part of the family. Like every week we have a family empathy circle, or the school every, you know, week or every day or something. something that's institutionalized and ongoing aspect needed.
So that wall you talked about, our ordinary habits of conversation is a pretty strong wall. We might break through, but it resorts back to our common habits and customs of conversation. And so empathy practice needs to become a constancy, a new kind of cultural or institutionalized practice.
Yeah, if presidential debates were empathy circles instead of debates, that would be, you'd be seeing it all the time. So it's just a lot of creativity is needed for making that happen.
Wouldn't it be wonderful to see political conversation structured as circles rather than debates?
I feel fully heard. Oh, yeah, thanks.
So time-wise, or what are we for this
So
round?
maybe one more round. So Leo's, and then it's that, or do we debrief also? Do we do a little debriefing before we go to the next? I don't.
Yeah, a little debrief.
Yeah, we do a little debrief. Yeah. So.
Okay, so I could relax now. Okay.
Well, no, you can share how it's been for you.
Yeah, thank you. Like I said, it's just diving into the adult world, and it's nice because I had to remember a lot of this stuff, and what Edwin was saying also, that we need to like practice, and so I'm very grateful that I had a chance to practice and screw up a few times, because then it like I can remember things better that way. So thank you.
And Leo, you want to give feedback to Dorothy? How it was for you, or?
Yeah, well, we were engaged in a real empathy circle. So the idea, we don't know what's going to emerge, that I was nervous because I didn't know in advance what was going to be said. And I think some very constructive things came out of our conversation, probably focused mostly on the application of empathy practice in various venues, from the family to politics, quite a range. So a very constructive conversation emerged without a lot of forethought or direction. It simply came out of the felt need of people, each person, to speak their mind and their heart.
Thank you, Leo. Edwin, would you like to?
Yeah, with the empathy circle, this, like most empathy circles, it's like once people start sharing and being heard, it's like that's where the magic is. When I do the presentations, the how to, I always forget something, this, that. We get into it and we do it, and it's like everything gets kind of like connected and healed, and a nice energy gets created. And it was the same with this too. It was, great topic, insights, very enjoyable for me.
Yeah, thank you, Edwin. For me, I am also curious about the children, and yeah, you did find, Dorothy, that 4-minute not setting the timer, that's a common mistake. I've made that mistake. All the mistakes, I've made them.
And it's when I was talking.
Yes, that's when you usually forget the timer. When it's your turn, it's easy to forget the timer as the facilitator, as a beginning facilitator. And yeah, it's I'm sure when you're doing with children, they're just taking turns and you're not really necessarily taking a turn. So yeah. And what else? And I loved Edwin's body language. I was noticing his t-shirt, but also how he comes forward when he's like listening, like really intently, and the hands and the gesturing. So I appreciated that in this circle. But yeah, and you did just great. I really appreciated your timer also use, just the simple showing of that, of your thing, and not waffling. For me, like I often will give people an extra little half minute or something. It's hard for me to just put it there right away. So, you did just perfect. And so thank you. Okay, Leo, it's your turn. Introduce us. We don't have a clue about empathy circles, so please tell us how to do them.
Okay, and I'll be the timer, but Well, welcome to this session to learn about empathy circles. And so glad you're here. How have you ever taken dance lessons? Edwin, yes?
Yeah, I have.
How about you, Jenna? And Dorothy? I haven't taken formal dance lessons. I think I'd be scared to to learn the steps of dancing. It seems so complex. And yet we're going to learn today a dance step that I think will help you in your family life and as well as in your organization and communities that you belong to. Are you game?
Yeah.
Right. Well, the dance that I'm describing is a method of conversation that's not typical. It's going to be some new learning. It's in a way very structured, but that gives us tremendous freedom that we don't necessarily have in ordinary conversation. So let me explain how an empathy circle works. Because it's about conversation, it involves a speaker and a listener. And the speaker trains herself to speak in short sentences, short amounts to give the listener time to offer feedback. So in this dance step, there's the speaker and the listener. Speaker might speak for, we'll have a 4-minute block of time, and in that time, say something short. The listener will feedback or say what they heard the speaker say. And when the listener speaks back, it's not an ordinary conversation. You don't go on to say, oh, well, that makes me think about you. Your whole focus is on the speaker and simply reporting back to the speaker what you heard, not adding commentary or judgment or more topics to the conversation. And each of us will have a turn at being the speaker, to speak our mind or our heart. And each of us will have a turn to be the listener and to practice that skill of giving back to the speaker what we hear. And we'll do this in rounds. And we'll do let a speaker go for 4 minutes and be listened to and understood. And then the torch will be passed to the person who was a listener, becomes a speaker. And we'll choose somebody else in the group to be the new listener. Is that clear how we'll proceed? I've practiced this for about 1.5 years now, and I'm still learning. Like other kinds of dance, my feet sometimes trip over each other and I make mistakes. But I think it's a practice that you will enjoy and you'll get good at by practice. So to start this out, I will be the first listener, and I'm going to ask Dorothy to be the first speaker. And so Dorothy will speak and I will feedback what I hear. And after 4 minutes, we'll change roles. And I will become the speaker and someone else will be the listener that I choose.
Okay, just pause
That's
there.
feedback.
You're done with the intro?
Yeah, I think the introduction is done.
You think the introduction's done. So you want to share how it was for you first?
I'm trying to introduce a metaphor to help people focus on what the practice is like. I don't know if that's the best metaphor. I have to think about that some more. But I'm trying to introduce the topic in a way that invites people into it and give them confidence that they'll learn something new. So that was the first attempt at how to introduce this to a group of people that know nothing about it. And I appreciate other feedback on the introduction.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Leo. Dorothy, you want to provide?
Sure. Leo, I thought that metaphor is amazing. It's like it was playful. And so it helped me, it put me in that mood of like a dance. So it's not like something formal and I have to, not in a classroom setting. It helped me to just settle in and to listen to and see it as a dance. And I really like that. And it explained the whole thing. The whole intro was really nice. I liked it, Leo.
I did not talk about the quiet listeners and their role, and so the dance metaphor, is it a tango? Is it a folk dance? I mean, there are many kinds of dances. So I think I would try to introduce in that metaphor the role of all the listeners, both the active listener and those who are quiet.
Mm-hmm. Edwin?
Yeah, I like the dance metaphor. Reminded me of dancing. And it felt very casual, very comfortable, kind of warm, and felt like, hey, you really made it your own. It's like it's your own descriptions, like what really works, and that has a good feel to it. It's like, it wasn't like stiff or something. It's just, it's as a teacher, you kind of know how to do this. So yeah.
Yeah, I think, we're doing practice rounds here. I think if we're introducing the practice of empathy circles, there would be the typical way we have to build rapport with our audience and, get a comfort zone before we go into the training. And so there, the introduction might be more extended to include the getting to know you part.
Yeah, that's actually an option as we're facilitating, is to do that getting to know you part. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Leo. Yeah, I like the dance metaphor too, and that's sweet. Yeah, and the facilitator role too. Remember to share the facilitator role.
Yeah, I could be more explicit what that role is, and the timekeeping and some of the mechanics I didn't talk about.
What else?
Was there the topic? Did you mention the topic? I don't remember that.
Yeah, I think the topic is.
So you can just do that now. Here.
Okay. So today's topic is how can we add dance to our conversations? And how can we organize our conversations in a structured way that actually gives us more freedom to say what is on our mind and heart? And so I'm going to ask you to think about conversations in all contexts and how we might facilitate conversation using the empathy practice. You can also, when it's your turn to speak, say anything that's alive for you on your mind and heart. So Dorothy, I've asked you to be the first speaker, and I'll time you for 4 minutes. And
okay,
I'll be your listener.
All right. So I guess I could bring in the example of the children, of how I could incorporate empathy circles, or I've experimented with empathy circles and children.
So you're going to share some of your experience of bringing empathy practice to children.
So I had 3 different groups of children, 4 to 6, 7 to 9, and then 10 to 14. I'm talking about ages, right?
So yeah, 3 age groups, 3 different age groups, 3 groups of children ranging from age 4 to
6,
preteen.
6 and
46,
then
7 to
7
9,
to 9, and then 10 to 14, I think.
and 14, right? So a
And-
great age range.
And so with the little ones, I picked subjects that I know they like to talk about. So put it in I made it like fun. So I put it in a hat, and they would pick out a subject, which some of them couldn't read, so I would read for them. But I also had a little drawing with it. So I had the word and the drawing. So I'll stop
So to
there.
introduce a topic, you would put in a hat various topic choices that you knew children would be interested in, and had the topic word and then maybe a little picture to illustrate the topic. And then it would be time to pick a topic from the hat.
And we didn't have time. We didn't have to keep time because it's very short with kids. So they would pick a topic, and so what did I do for my birthday this year, for example? And I would so I'd say I'm listening. I didn't spend okay, so I'll just stop there.
So one example of a topic to appeal to young children. What did you do on your birthday? And topic was chosen.
You're on mute. Yeah, I can't
It's like
hear
your
you.
connection suddenly clicked. There was something like a cable or something. Now you're muted.
Okay, now?
Yep.
Sorry for that interruption, Dorothy. But you
Okay.
picked a topic, for example, but what did you do on your birthday? And a child would begin speaking, you would be the listener.
And so it was very short. They would say one sentence, and I would say the sentence.
So they
and-
did no problem with the length of the top. They would say as one sentence, and you'd feed that back to them.
And at the end of the process, I would go around. It was only me who was listening. And they really liked it because nobody really listens to them.
They really liked it because typically nobody listens. And this was a situation where they listened to each other, even if it's a one sentence at a time.
Yeah. And I did that with the older kids. It worked the same, a little bit longer, the context. And eventually, after time, there were kids who wanted to play the role of listener.
So you practice it with the older children with good consequences, and eventually the statements get longer, and the children would want to take the role of listener.
And then they want to apply with their parents.
And then they took it home and to apply it with their parents and maybe siblings.
So we're going to be doing that in the fall. We're going to start working with it with the same kids, and we're going to see where else we can apply it together as a team, actually.
So you look forward to applying this in the fall with the same kids and working as a team to promote this practice in the school as well as families.
Thank you. I feel fully heard. So now, no.
Now I'm the speaker, and I will take 4 minutes, and I'll ask Jenna to be my listener.
Sure.
Well, Jenna, I think we're hearing some good ideas today about applying empathy circle.
So you think we're hearing some really good ideas today about how to apply this practice?
And so it's a training session, but it's also bearing fruit for our own agendas.
And so even though this is just a training session, it's really very productive and beneficial.
I keep thinking, there's I mentioned before, there's structure in the empathy circle practice. Just like a poem has different structures, like a sonata has structure.
And so another metaphor comes to mind for empathy circles, that it reminds you of poetry and the structure of poetry, the structure of empathy circles parallels poetry.
And I don't know if you remember the rules for sonata. Sonata's not the right word. I'm thinking of a sonnet. A sonnet, I think it's supposed to have 17 lines. There are certain rules to have a sonnet and certain rules for haiku. And yet these rules actually stimulate our creativity and provide us a new kind of freedom.
And you're noticing that structure actually provides a kind of freedom, and you're reminded of the 17 perhaps lines of sonnet and 17 syllables of haiku, and that this empathy circle structure also provides us some freedom for creativity.
So when we're trying to share the practice with others and helping them feel relaxed about it, we can intimate some of these qualities of the empathy circle practice that has structure and yet it's liberating.
So when we're trying to help others feel comfortable and relaxed during this practice, we can think of structure as also being liberating.
And this is in contrast with what had been shared before about our ordinary habits of conversation are quite different sometimes, and not having a lot of explicit rules.
This is quite in contrast to normal conversation that really has no rules.
And even the young children can notice they're not getting equal airtime with their siblings.
And even young children notice, that nobody's paying attention and they're not getting equal time with I've added to their siblings. Yeah.
So I think that's, I have another minute, but I think I've said what I need to say for now, Jenna.
You're feeling fully heard, even though you have 1 more minute left.
Yes. Thank you.
I get to pick my listener, I guess. And Dorothy, would you like to listen to me? I'm bypassing Edwin here so you guys can get more practice. Sure, Edwin gets plenty of practice.
Sure.
So precious, empathy circles.
So you're saying that this process of empathy circles is very precious.
Yes, when I first started practicing empathy circles, I thought that we should have applied to the UN to have it recognized as an intangible cultural heritage.
So at first, when you started practicing empathy circles, you thought it should go to be used in the UN.
It should be acknowledged as an intangible cultural heritage, an intangible global cultural heritage.
So I'm going to try to repeat the exact same words that you're using. Intangible cultural heritage.
Yeah, that's a thing.
I didn't know that was a thing. Okay, it's a thing.
Yeah, for example, recently the Haitian soup jumeau that the Haitians eat to celebrate Haitian liberation and independence on January 1st has been recognized by the UN as an intangible cultural heritage. It's the recipe, and the tradition of making soup jumeau. Soup jumeau is pumpkin soup.
So it is a thing in the UN, and like, for example, the Haitians, the UN actually recognized soup jumeau, which is pumpkin soup, as the food that is used, that we prepare to celebrate the Independence Day in January. So it should be something that we should also have recognized in the United Nations. With regards to the empathy circles.
Yeah, in addition to bringing empathy circles to these other communities, I'm also very happy to bring the other communities to empathy circles and to kind of be a card-carrying member of empathy circles community. And hopefully this community can spread globally to 8 billion people.
So you're really excited, it seems, about not only bringing empathy circles to groups, but bringing other groups to empathy circles. And your wish, your aspiration is that it spreads to 8 billion to the world.
Yeah. That's Edwin's vision, and I share that vision.
It's Edward's vision, but you also, Jenna, share that vision.
Yeah. And I've brought Empathy Circle to family that had a lot of conflict. And I asked, maybe useful for the Hellenic community that you shared with trauma.
So you've used Empathy Circle in a family where there was conflict.
Yeah, and I asked Edwin, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. So you're saying you're seeing how it could be used maybe to help me within my community.
Yeah, and I asked Edwin for advice before I proceeded, and he said, pick like a topic like what brought you joy in the last month. So like with the children, you pick something that is comfortable and easy for people to talk about.
So when you had to work with this family, you had asked Edwin for some advice, and he suggested that you ask them what brings you joy as a topic, in the same way that when we talk to children about something that they like, it's easier for them to talk about it.
Yeah, and just to practice, the practice.
And just to practice the empathy circle.
Yeah. And I feel fully heard. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jim. And now it's my turn. So Leo, would you like to be my listener?
Okay.
I'm just sitting still. It's a rich rich discussion today that I'm finding that I don't really have anything else. I just need to process. Talked about.
So like you're finding this a rich conversation today and feeling the need to process some of what you've heard already with stillness.
I guess I could share that I have also applied empathy circle principles or concepts or process with clients, because I also do private counseling.
So in your private counseling practice, you've brought in empathy practice. Would you like to share some of that?
Yeah, what I found is a discovery of how focused I am on finding solutions or listening, but listening to the solutions that the clients are talking about, but they're not aware of.
In the training as a therapist, you have this, you didn't call it bias, but a conditioning to look for solutions as you're listening.
And so, sorry.
No.
And so there were moments where I actually just stopped. I was aware, mindful of my process, like as a counselor, and then I would just stop and almost like, what if I just reflected back, period, but like exactly what the person said, not what they're implying, what I'm sensing, whatever.
So in your practice of listening as a therapist, you have had occasion to just stop in your tracks and commit yourself to simply listening and offering feedback without any solutions, without any commentary. And that was exercising the empathy practice as a listener.
And so a couple of times it was, I got the response was a bit, well, you really are a good listener.
So sometimes you
Ann.
get the feedback, oh, you're a good listener.
I'm like, okay. You're not helping me.
I'm paying good bucks for this.
and then even then I would insist on the process. And what I found, what a beautiful discovery is that they would come up with their own solutions, and they would say them.
You would stick to your guns and stick to just actively listening. And the client would come up with their own solutions in time.
And I would reflect that back, that like what my process was, to point that out to them, which empowered them. And I did not have to work so hard.
You made explicit with the client the process that you went through, empowering them to find their own solutions and making it less work for you.
That I'm sharing with students that I'm supervising as a social worker now.
I'm sharing this revelation with students that I'm training today.
Thank you. I feel fully heard.
Okay. Do we have time for another round before feedback, or?
Yes, we do.
Okay, so I'll be the speaker, and I ask Edwin to be my listener.
Listening.
Take note of my timekeeping here. I write down the time that is the termination time, so I'm equipped.
So you really prepare for the timekeeping with kind of jotting it down.
Yeah, or I'll lose track. I think I'd go back to that wall that you introduced, Edwin, representing the ordinary habits of conversation that we have. And typically I find the ordinary habits often include a dominant speaker in a particular context.
So you're going back to this, what I was mentioning about this wall, and that wall is made up of someone who becomes the dominant speaker.
And even the young children can notice this, that the siblings are getting more airtime than they are.
Yeah, so even kids kind of realize that their siblings are the ones who are becoming the dominant speaker, getting more attention and more airtime.
I'm the third of 4 children, and my older siblings were 4 and 6 years older. And with a younger sibling, I became the middle child. And I think in that upbringing, I found it hard to get a word in edgewise with the older siblings taking a more dominant role.
Yeah, because you were the middle child, the older siblings took up more of the dominant role. So you got less time to be heard, less airtime.
So I think this impacted on my life and pushed me into more of an introverted orientation.
And because of that, you became more introverted during your life.
I'm also thinking of the empathy circle from last week. Well, it was a different empathy circle, but we used, it was with Dr. Dorothy, I'd have to look up her name, but she was giving a series of training sessions on empathy circles.
So last week, someone gave a series of presentations on empathy circles. Don't quite remember who it was.
I think it was Introvision or Introvision, Dorothy.
Oh,
Judge, Dr. Judge. And she included kinesthetic techniques in for conversation.
So the person that you went to a talk on intravision empathy, and they were talking about kinesthetic empathy.
Right. So we would use gestures to embody our feelings. And
Yeah. Oh, just using it's about using kind of bodily motions to convey your feelings.
And one of the participants used a motion of, she found herself breastfeeding her 1-year-old self that didn't get the nurturing she needed as a young child in a traumatic post-war country.
And one of the motions someone did was sort of a motion of holding herself as a child who didn't, in a post-war situation, who didn't get sort of the nurturing that they needed.
And it highlighted, we all need to be seen, to be heard, to be understood from an early age and forever. And without that, it's traumatic.
Yeah, so you're really, it's like just highlighting that, you know, we need to be heard from a young age. Because if you don't get that, there's trauma comes out of that lack of being heard and seen from the earliest age on.
Thank you, Edwin. I feel fully heard.
Okay, then I think we're about at the time to want to debrief and have a few minutes at the end, Janet, to talk.
Sure. So, Leo, how has this been for you? You can share.
Well, I thank you for the feedback on the introduction. That was experimental, and the rest of the empathy practice today was, I think, typical, that we're getting used to the practice and getting a nice rhythm. We're dancing well.
Thank you, Leo. Dorothy, you want to share next?
So now I feel a little bit more immersed in the empathy circle. So I'm more immersed than I was when I first started today, and so I really appreciate that. Getting rooted back into the practice. So I just realized how important it is to keep practicing, and to keep coming back and keep practicing. So I really appreciate the time and the space to do that.
Thank you, Dorothy. You have any feedback for Leo, especially?
I think if I could say, I think it was great. Thank you, Leo. I felt it flowed nicely. I felt like it was a dance too. So, and it was nice the way it shifted. It's like the tango, and then we did a cha-cha or whatever, you know. So I like that. That was really cool.
Yes.
I had a question when I shared about another empathy circle and a very specific and poignant example. Is that breaking confidentiality? You know, I'm really bringing into the discussion something outside of the group. It was on my mind, but I think the rules of confidentiality are important, and I just worried if I was trespassing that boundary.
I'll just say that the circles that I do, I don't have any confidentiality agreements. Like, you know, people are free to do what they want, and don't share anything that you don't want out there, kind of. Some groups say, hey, we have a confidentiality agreement, but we're like recording all these calls. So the ones that I'm doing, so it's very public, and that whole issue of confidentiality is a whole kind of an issue in and of itself. You know, I mean, there's a lot of pros and cons to it. No, that's my take on it.
Edwin's room is recorded, and if you don't want to be recorded, you can, you know, let Edwin know. So sometimes we do circles with Edwin, and he says to put NR next to your name for not recording, and then make sure that you're in a breakout room that's not recorded. So, because he posts all these. they're all public. And so,
And I would just add quickly that I think a culture of empathy is about openness and transparency. So that's what I try to promote is openness and transparency. Yeah. So.
I personally, I mean, it would be ideal if that were the case everywhere, but unfortunately, some people have other intentions. So,
Well, we all shared from personal experience today. Edwin identified family members, not by name, but so I think we share from our experience, and we don't need to identify particular people by name, but that they become part of our experience.
yes.
And so I think it's fair game to share what that experience for us has been.
Regarding the timer, I just wanted to share in the chat that I find this, I'm switching topics here, but I find this timer useful. This is the online timer that I usually use. Somebody complained about the chime sound that most people like, so then I use my phone, and you can use your timer on your phone if you want to use that. And if you're comfortable doing it the way you're doing it, Leo, you just do it any way you want.
Yeah, I use an atomic clock, so, but it has the second indicators.
I see.
And so I'll jot down what the 4-minute mark will be, and then I can simply watch that dial.
Okay.
Well, in terms of feedback, I hadn't given feedback. I'll say the initial question was a little confusing to me because it was a little, but for me, whenever there's a question, I kind of just ignore it and do whatever, talk about whatever is alive for me. So I think there was something about dance. Yeah, so because it wasn't the question that we had, the kind of the standard question we're going to do for this circle, but otherwise I felt very calm, very relaxed, nice presence. I felt really, it just like great topics, it's like very interesting. Everything that came up was kind of my experience.
When introducing a topic, is it good to verify with the group if that's okay with everyone, or just proceed?
Usually we follow in the course, we follow the topics that are part of the course topics. And then if you lead your own empathy circle, you usually do your own topic like that. Is that correct, Edwin?
Yeah, in this first one, we just have the standard topic that we're using. What are your thoughts and concerns about being an empathy circle facilitator? So, or whatever's alive for you. So just have a standard question for this overall.
So, but, it was fine. I didn't have any problem with you offering. Dorothy had already done the official one, and then you were continuing. But I really didn't think of it when it wasn't in the chat, and it wasn't something that I thought of. We just kept doing our whatever was alive for us. So that was fine too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and otherwise, I think that was wonderful. I agree with Dorothy. It just flowed, and we kept track of the time, and we're as beginning empathy circleists, we did okay.
Now, I think with Jana, you mentioned you were belonging to several communities trying to apply the empathy practice, and I got confused when you introduced Kathy. There are the 16 tips. I thought that was Dorothy's work. It was somebody in one of your groups rather than somebody in our present group. And
I'm sorry, I have the bad habit when I speak of using detail that's hard to reflect. So it's all right. Don't worry about it. The Peace Alliance, Kathy Kidd introduced a couple of us to the empathy circles. She was an empathy circle facilitator, and she brought it to the Peace Alliance, and she has a monthly empathy circle. It's on Tuesday, first Tuesday of the month, that the Peace Alliance does an empathy circle. And then there's the Peace Alliance has lots of different activities and events, and has hope story circles every other Saturday, second and fourth Saturdays, and it has the truth storytelling on the first Saturday of every month. And I was asked to bring empathy circles to truth storytelling. So Dwayne had joined me, and DJ was there, and I guess later maybe I'll also acknowledge Tiffany and Valerie came. and then there were the regulars to truth storytelling. So that's a different empathy circle that we're going to start maybe on the third Saturday of every month. So that's a second empathy circle. So that's the detail, but it's not, I mean, don't worry about it if you don't reflect the exact acronyms or.
Well, I think my point is when we're facilitating, what emerges in the group. Sometimes it arises internally from the group's comments. So I made reference when it was my turn to speak, I would make reference to other people in the group. And sometimes what's on our mind or heart is coming from outside that context. And, we're bringing in something we're thinking about or on our mind. And so as a facilitator, we're trying to make easy the emergence of a collective, a group presence to each other and a group coalescence around the topic. And just to be aware that at times, the dance will go in different directions sometimes, and to be at ease with that. We're not trying to control that, but knowing that it can come in. There's shifts in the tempo, shifts in the notes.
Thank you for that feedback. I appreciate that. That can be helpful to me to, as a facilitator, to just keep it with what's being said and offered.
Well, but we don't control that as a facilitator. So it's allowing whatever happens to happen. Maybe as speaker, we can be more conscious if we're, what we're paying attention to, what we want to communicate.
Edwin, could you shoot me back to my breakout room? I got kicked out. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm trying to get you over there. It's not
Okay.
moving yet.
Kicked out, Bill.
Somehow it's not moving you over.
We're freezing.
Yeah, like he's also frozen.
Might be some bad connection. There he
Oh,
goes.
there you. Yeah. Well, I just want to say, if I may, it's also the other thing that I'm experiencing is that just the organic nature of it, it does somehow all kind of work out. And I like that. It's okay. It's okay to mention what it's like it's more relaxed. So I'm learning, and that's one for me, it's really important. Like a Miss Workaholic here who works so hard, and a community organizer, have to help people and change the systems. It's like, oh, I could just relax and just allow whatever it is, even if sometimes it's clumsy, or like I did today, many mistakes to happen.
Yeah, my experience is that, however it starts, sometimes may start a little awkward. And for me, I know if we can do about 3 rounds, it just kind of settles in and everybody feels good, because it's just the magic of being heard. It just sort of creates this space, and always, so that it puts me at ease too. It's that was a great story about you listening, just reflecting back, and people come up with their own solutions. They actually appreciate that more than if you'd been giving a whole bunch of advice. Generally,
yeah.
To
reflect what a great therapist I am.
I really appreciate you sharing that story as well.
I really liked our group. Thank you so much, guys, before everybody else comes back in.
Yeah, I'm going to hit the close room. Coming back in a minute.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you very much. You have any feedback for me, Edwin? You want to, or?
Oh yeah, it was great. It was just it's you got the experience. Everything went smooth. Yeah, I thought everything worked well.
Little clap there.
Thank you.
I like those reactions.
Okay, here they come.
We got 20 seconds before everybody comes back. It's kind of forced back.
welcome back, everyone. I believe that this is my part of the session today, and so I'd just like to welcome everybody back. You're going to have about a minute to, share your experience, your insights, and the learnings from your first opportunity to facilitate an empathy circle. And so everyone will have about a minute. And so I will go ahead and get started. Let's see. Leo, would you like to go first?
Okay, well, I use the metaphor of dance to describe what we do when we do empathy circle practice. And another member of our group said, well, yeah, it can be a tango, it can be folk, it can be ballroom dancing, all kinds of dancing. But the empathy circle has a definite form, a structure, similar to a sonnet, writing a sonnet or a haiku. But that structure gives us freedom to be creative. And so we adopted that metaphor as part of our discussion. And we talked quite a bit about applying the practice of empathy in many contexts, from family systems to politics.
Thank you, Leo. Colin, would you like to go next?
Yes, I was happy with my own performance as a facilitator and the support that I got from the others in the group. I felt fully heard. Also in terms of my skills as a facilitator, the feedback that I got, I was happy with. A couple of things were to beware of the ums, to let it flow, that it doesn't need to be perfect. There were some extras that Celine brought our attention to as well. Yeah, it was a great first practice, I think, as a facilitator. I'd like to thank everyone in my group.
Thank you, Colin. Renato, would you like to go next?
Yes, I'm happy with feedbacks that I got as a facilitator, because this is the first time I have done that. And I'm surprised that I have made it like pretty good, and I had that feedback, positive feedback, and I'm surprised that I actually did that, and I didn't have like any experience in this kind of like managing the groups, and I'm really glad that I have done that. And also I'm glad that I also that I have that opportunity to give feedbacks and to help in this group with some suggestions on how to be a better facilitator for others.
Thank you, Renato. Graham, would you like to go next? You're muted, Graham. Graham, you're muted.
Yeah, sorry about that. I'm using a laptop that I am not really skilled with. So I always find these sessions very, very instructive. There are really two big takeaways, maybe three big takeaways for me today. One is that whenever you describe the processes, there's, let's say you've got three people who you're trying to describe it to. You'll get one of them gives you a good, a high mark, the other one gives you a medium mark, the other one gives you a low mark. So it doesn't matter whether you give too much information or too little information, you're still going to get somebody giving you a good grade, somebody giving you a middle grade, somebody giving you a low grade. So my thing is, hey, try to keep it as simple as possible. the other one is the role of the speaker. If they want to be heard, they've really got to keep things very, very simple, and if possible, try to sort of keep on the emotional side, talk about feelings and needs, for example, and then people might connect a little bit more. At least that's what I need to stay captured. And yeah, I think that really summarizes what I experienced today. Always enjoying these things. Always walk away with something that I benefit from. So thank you very much indeed. Thank you, Dwayne.
Dwayne, Matthew Osu just messaged me. Just his connection is really good right now. He asked if he could go next because the connection is up and down.
Sure, Matthew. Are you there, Matthew? Oh, okay. Hello, Matthew. We can't hear you.
I think Matthew's all crackling up.
Yeah. Maybe he can write it in the chat and then we can read it for him.
Yeah, I think he's talking, but we can't hear him. We hear.
Yeah, it's okay. I'm gonna. Someone, Edwin, can you send Matthew a message, and I'm gonna go ahead and.
Yeah, I will.
Move to Mervyn. Would you like to go next?
Yeah, sure. I'm also getting background noise at the moment, but.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, try to mute him.
Yeah.
Yes, it's gone now. Thank you. Yeah, so for me, I think the most important lesson was, as a speaker, when I'm hearing the reflection back from somebody else, if they're struggling to reflect back what I've said, I need to shorten my sentences and make them even talk even more slowly and shorter sentences. For me, that was quite an important lesson from today's session for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mervyn. Crystal, would you like to go next?
Wow. Well, I just had such a beautiful experience with each of our participants. And it felt like it's interesting. One of the participants actually used the word love twice. And it's the beauty of that in an hour, you can so deeply become connected to someone's humanity. It just, in closing, reminded me of Michelle Obama's book and Becoming, where she shared with her story of meeting Nelson Mandela and how he really bestowed this warmth that transcended every person that he connected with. He treated them all the same, and how she recognized when she flew home that we're all planting seeds. And, you know, he spent a lifetime planting his and went to prison. And we're all here in this beautiful empathy circle, propelled by that same spirit. And we're all planting seeds of change, and just incredibly thankful to be here.
Thank you, Crystal. Oren, would you like to go next?
Yeah, thank you, Dwayne, and yeah, thank you to all the people in my room. I got it was interesting, some great. I saw lots of different styles. Really enthusiastic and joyful, and yeah, gentle and more, you know, about the philosophy of it all. So I saw got a lot out of it. And yeah, for me, it's yeah, juggling being the listener and the timer was one of the things that, yeah, the practice that I'll have to get to. But yeah, no, it was yeah, really great. Thank you.
Thank you, Oren. DJ, would you like to go next?
Yeah, it was wonderful.
Matthew was in my group. Larry was there, and Beata, I think, is her name correct? Yeah, it was good. I had kind of an aha moment where the facilitator should be the first active listener. And Larry said that's kind of the new approach. And so I was really confused, but then I tried it and it really worked. As a facilitator, it really worked for me. So it was great.
Thank you, DJ. John, would you like to go next?
Hey, Dwayne, sure. So I thought I was plenty prepared to give the instructions, and I didn't print out, or I didn't have the guideline, the one pager with me, because I thought I had memorized it, but I missed some things. And it's a good reminder to, even if you feel comfortable with all the different roles and the flow and the process, for me at least, to have that guide handy.
Thank you, John. Diane, would you like to go next?
Hi. I really appreciated the group I was in. I appreciated the openness that we all shared and the honesty. This was a big learning for me. I found the feedback to be helpful. And I brought up possibly the idea of using visuals. I was curious if anyone had ever shared their screen to show the different roles of the people in the group, or if you were in a room with people that you put it on an easel, all those different roles and how that had gone over. I was curious about how that would work. So if anyone has experience with that, I'd be interested in hearing about it. Thanks.
Thank you, Diane, and we'll ask one of the trainees to address your question a little bit later. So thank you. Wendy, would you like to go next?
Thank you, Dwayne. Just following on from DJ's, I use visuals, to describe the roles. Wonderful time. It went by so quickly and I learned lots. I feel very much gratitude to each of the 3 people in the group. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Wendy. Kathleen, would you like to go next?
Thanks, Dwayne. All of the feedback was just so helpful from everybody in the group, the facilitator, the lead facilitator, the trainee, but just everybody was just really present. Somebody in my group actually said, I think it was the most helpful takeaway, I think it was Crystal, that the goal was not to be perfect, but to be present. And that's what we're all doing here. And that was so helpful when I was nervous about, trying something. It's just, okay, be present and try it. And even if, you make a mistake, you're going to learn from it. And so just being in an environment like this is really helpful.
Thank you, Kathleen. And Crystal, if you can type that into the chat, that would be great. Jonathan, would you like to go next?
Thank you. I found the feedback very valuable, and I have some homework to do. I think that attending the empathy cafes on Monday and some of the other empathy events on the calendar is very beneficial. My homework assignment is to look at you feel and I feel, and trying to disentangle that type of statement on the reflection. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. Rahul, would you like to go next?
Yes, so the space that was created was very safe for me to practice facilitation, express what I needed to express, and listen, I think, and be the silent listener as well. So I think all the 4 roles, I think I felt very safe and comfortable. I think the 3 group members were full of warmth and compassion. So yeah, Dwayne, a really positive experience.
Thank you for sharing, Rahul. Sayantan, would you like to go next?
No, it was a really nice experience being on the other side of the training for the first time, and it was very interesting how in the end we had this debriefing space where we spoke of the practical applications of empathy circles, and one of the trainers actually gave out these amazing case studies, and those really stood out for me, like talking with your children, talking in a professional space, husbands and wives using empathy circles to talk with each other. I've had amazing insights talking with my mother using an empathy circle. So it's an interesting thing to try out, and that was something that stood out for me. Thank you.
Thank you. And Sally, would you like to go next?
Hi. Yeah, I was in a group with you, Dwayne, and Ron, and Janine, and well, I just really enjoyed the energy, and I wanted to just say, well, I was trying to be a perfectionist, and what I learned is not to overkill critiquing in the first time that we're having an empathy training where everyone takes their part, and instead to create a safe space for everyone to learn in. And each time we fail, and this is what Aaron said, we learn something new. Okay. And so anyway, it was something that sorry, I forgot the name of the leader, of course. But I just have to leave it at that and hope that Aaron talks about failure and learning from it. Thank you.
Thank you, Sally. Matthew, are you there?
Matthew is here, and I think clear enough.
Yes.
Please, can you confirm if you can hear me so that I can proceed?
Hear you.
So thank you very much. Thank you everyone for the patience. I've been having serious network challenges. During the breakout session, I was with Larry, DJ, and Beata. So it was a wonderful session. I didn't know that I could be asked to facilitate or host an empathy circle within some few minutes. And thankfully, I did. One of the comments Larry made that gripped my attention is that I was able to summarize the PDF one-pager book, and I was really happy that he took note of that. And for me, it's a good progress on this. To encourage everyone on the platform, try to be part of what Bill is doing, what Sally is doing within the week. Just get connected and you'll be building your capacity more. Thank you.
Thank you, Matthew. And I think that's everyone. Is there anyone that I missed? The people moved around a little bit in the last second. Did I miss anyone? Show your hand if I missed you.
Hey, I'll add Dwayne. Just wanted to give some feedback about our group. So I was in the group with Dwayne and Oren and Sally, and we had a great time, honestly. So Oren mentioned the different personalities in the group, and I actually such an outspoken person. I just started talking. I forgot all about the how-to part. I forgot about it was great because the way he sort of helped me and corrected me with empathy. And I think it's really good to know that, and Sally mentioned it, that we learned from our group that we also have to be empathetic towards ourselves. Dwayne said that. And so I thought that was fantastic. We had a really great time on our group. And I'm learning a lot from this session to be in the place of a facilitator, and then also from the one before. So I'm really looking forward to the next 3. So it's been great.
Thank you very much, Lee. Edwin,
Dorothy has her hands up. Was that your hand up
Dorothy.
to speak, Dorothy? Or
Yep. Hi, it's because I'm way up north. So it was a great experience coming back to the practicing empathy circle. I had completely, because I've been doing empathy circles with children. My form of empathy circles with children is very simple. So I'd forgotten a lot of the different steps and what the instructions. So it was really very clumsy in the beginning. The group was really great, supported me through it. And then by the end, I felt like I just dove right back into the practice, and it was really great. And I look forward to continuing practicing. Thank you.
Janine, your hands up again. Oh, you just.
I was just waving at Janine because I just see who she's like, we talked on the phone, so we didn't see each other. So sorry about that.
Tiffany has her hand up.
All right. So I just want to thank the participants on today. And there's so many people that come from different backgrounds, and I'm not necessarily meaning ethnic or race, but just sometimes you come from this mindset that you have to get everything right the first time. And I just want to, if I may, just free people of that. Even if you were brought up that way, this is just not the space to utilize it. We don't welcome that perfectionist have to get it right, which is why in the end, we're just making ourselves better. And you being here is taking initiative to heal that part of you or make yourself better. I also see where there's I don't know if people haven't noticed this, but today's my first time noticing that there's a timer on Zoom. So I don't have to use my phone anymore. So I don't know if you all have noticed that, but I wanted to share that with you if you have not. Thank you.
Thank you, Tiffany. And Edwin, I wanted to check in time-wise. We have 7 minutes left.
I think we're close to do the closing, so Celine would be next.
Okay. Celine, I'll turn it over to you. And thank you.
Okay. So any final trainer comments?
I have some.
Okay.
One thing, there's someone, Mike Nelson was not here today. He emailed me. He's a reverend in Canada, and he had a fall and actually lost his eye. So, I mean, he had a pretty bad accident. And he actually took the time to kind of notify us and all that. I just thought it was really amazing. And also just, sending him the best wishes, for his situation. A lot of care for that. The second thing was there was a question about the empathy buddy call. In the email that we send out after this, by the end of the day or by tomorrow, it has the list of all your empathy buddies. You're paired up. There is an explanation of how to do the empathy buddy. You're just meeting with that person, sending them an email, scheduling a time to meet. You get 15 minutes to speak to them, using the empathic listening that we're doing here, and they reflect for 15 minutes, and then you switch. So that's just the kind of the basic, just to get you to connect with others in the group, to practice this empathic listening as a facilitator. It's good to have a community that you can call on, to help you with if you're hosting your own circles, or if you're doing a very difficult facilitation. It's good to get heard, have an empathy buddy that's just there to support you. If you're not able to connect with your empathy buddy this time around, that's okay. Try to do it next time. So it's not like required, but just do your best. And I've noticed a couple of people in the LinkedIn chat that we have and the Facebook. You can post there if someone else would like to do an empathy buddy call with you. Usually Larry is very amiable to do calls with anybody that wants to, if you can't connect with your empathy buddy, but all that is listed in the email. So you should just check the email. There's a link to a web page that also describes that. And that was just something that had been asked. So just wanted to give that heads up. That's it for me.
Okay, so I'm going to review what we did in this session 2.
Bill had something just to give it. I just saw it.
Sorry, I'll be really quick. There was my internet cut out, so I didn't have a chance. But just a tip, sometimes the speaker feels pressure for content. And so it's always really good to give just permission to be silent if you need to. And that's something that almost paradoxically helps the flow sometimes. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. That's a good tip.
Just one thing, real quick. Dorothy set up a WhatsApp group for empathy buddy calls. And I'm going to put a link in the chat that anybody can join, and hopefully it'll help us to do our buddy calls. That's all. Thank you all. Great session.
Okay, now I'm going to talk really fast. So what we did today was we practiced in small groups. One was the opportunity to give the how-to or the introduction, and then to facilitate a short empathy circle. And next week, we're going to be in small groups. We won't be practicing the how-to, but we will be practicing facilitating a short empathy circle. And if you feel ready, you can ask for, well, we call them like a challenge. It's more like a distraction, like an interruption or something, so that you will have had the experience of handling something that's not what you planned. You don't have to do it if you don't want to, and you get to choose the level of distraction or challenge if you do want it. So that's next week. I hope you all get to do an empathy buddy call and maybe have your own empathy circle. And now we're going to put in the chat one feeling that you have right now. And then, let's see, we still have 2 minutes. Anybody have something else in the 2 minutes before we do our jazz hands?
I did put in the session feedback link there too. So if you have any questions, you can post those into that. Give us feedback, and then also any questions. We'll try to answer those at the next session.
We do read them, and your questions and comments are really valuable. So please do the empathy, the feedback session. Valerie, you can have half a minute.
I just wanted to say to Matthew, I think that he's having technical difficulties. He just sent me hello in the chat, just saying nice to see you again, but I couldn't actually reply back to him in the chat because it just says he's not part of the session. So I didn't want him to think I'm ignoring him. Nice to see you also, Matthew. Just wanted to acknowledge you.
All right, great. We're all with you, Matthew. So jazz hands now to close.
Turn on your videos, really hold those. We want to get a group portrait. If you've got a camera, we want that camera on. We want to see you. Leo, where are you? You're hidden behind something there. Yeah. And
hey,
everybody, if you just can, let's get that jazz. Hold those magic fingers. Tiffany, let's get everybody in with one big group portrait. Yay. Okay, got it.
Thank you, everybody. See you next week.
Thank you, Celine.
I don't know.
Thank you, Edwin. Thank you, Bill.
I don't know if I'm appearing on the. Oh, too bad.
Can you do your video? We don't see you.
I can't even, I've on it, but I can't find myself. Maybe because it's dark already.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Just send us a picture. Email me a picture, a photograph.
Okay.
I'll add it. I'll Photoshop you in.
Okay. Thank you.